Hello once again. Welcome back to our Bible study section. I'm Scott Frady, the pastor of East Belmont Baptist Church, and I'm glad you're taking an interest in our devotionals together. I hope that they will be meaningful to you. One of the reasons why people are on spiritual journey is because they are looking for the infinite. They are looking for that is bigger than themselves. Most of us feel as though we have something within us that can't be unlocked by our own effort because we've tried to do that. We've tried to unlock the door to ourselves and we just can't quite get the lock open. But the spiritual journey allows us the opportunity to open the door. That door opens on Christ, who is the one who taught us to be human. Now, in order for the spiritual journey to be effective, we need points of contact, what Marcus Borg called thin places, those places in our reality where our lives meet with the divine. There are a lot of points of contact in our world. There is nature. We can be outside in nature and feel the presence of God and feel ourselves encompassed by this wonderful sense of unity with life. There's also the sacred writings, the scriptures that we have. We can read those scriptures again and again, and all of the multifaceted meanings are there before us, and they give us the opportunity to find a word for that day, for that moment, and for that second. And that is another great point of contact. But one of the most important places of contact that we can never neglect is the contact of prayer. The place where we sit silently before God and allow God to begin to communicate to us in a way that will change our lives, that will transform us into the person that is behind the locked door. Jesus, after his baptism, went into the wilderness, and it says he was tempted by the tempter for 40 days. In this time, he fasted, and he struggled against himself. He struggled against the different temptations that would give him a different kind of path to go down. One path would be the path of notoriety. One path would be the path of pure physical power, and one path would be the path of the miracle worker. But he saw the path more clearly than that. He saw himself going in a different direction. And how did he know this? Because he was in communication with God. Communication with God is not a conversation like you and I could have. It is a conversation that comes from the depths of us. And it is a conversation that must be carried on as a dialogue and not a monologue. Most people, when they think of prayer, they think of talking to God. They think of asking God for something, petitioning God to give us things. And it is important that we express and vocalize those needs that are deep within us. It is important that we have that as part of who we are. But true transformation, that's another thing. That requires our undivided attention. For 40 days, Jesus gave his undivided attention to God. He gave up food. He gave up the necessities of life in order to completely focus on God. One of the ways that we can begin to get in touch with God and to really kind of reconnect is to fast. Now, fasting can take on a lot of forms. Fasting can be from food. It can be from a personal habit. It can be from a certain activity. But it is time that we set aside that would we be doing it. We would be doing that activity, but now we set it aside and use it to pay attention to God. Each of us needs that time of meditation and reflection. We need the silence to teach us. We need God's still small voice to reach into us and to touch our hearts. Elijah was finished with one of the greatest highlights of his career when he was completing the defeat of the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel. But then he ran because of a threat on his life. He eventually finds himself in a cave, and God says to come out and stand before him. He says there is a violent wind, but God was not in the wind. And then there was an earthquake, and God wasn't in the earthquake. And then there was a fire, but God wasn't in the fire. And then a still, small voice says to Elijah, "What are you doing here?" That is the question God asks of us. And it is with the dialogue we have between ourselves and God, the story of our life being completed as we live it day to day in the presence of God. That is where we have the answer to, what am I doing? We need the points of contact, but most of all, we need the presence of God. You've got to be still and know that He is God. Prayer changes things. Prayer is not about changing circumstances. It is about changing the heart of the prayer, giving us the strength to bear the circumstances we find ourselves in, giving us the wisdom to act and to do the will of God. May you find that will for yourself today. May you find God's presence fully as you seek His face. God bless.